My name is Brittany. Welcome back to my channel. Hi guys, I hope you're all doing okay. Okay, so today I wanted to just have a chat. There's something that has been kind of weighing on me a bit with regards to the book reader community. And while most things about this community are lovely, there's an experience that I had recently, which really sort of got me thinking, and I just wanted to sort of share some thoughts with you guys today. So, before I start this video, I just want to make something very clear. I'm not trying to offend anyone with what I say. So please, if you disagree with me, feel free to disagree with me. But please do so respectfully. I am trying to put forth my opinion respectfully, and so I just ask the same in return. I'm really not trying to offend anyone. It's just, this is kind of just a me thing, I guess. It's kind of just my personal preferences and thoughts and feelings and kind of experiences with regards to the books that I like to read. So, and I know this is going to be kind of a controversial video, so please, 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 please just maintain, respect is key. I have a controversial drink to go with this controversial video. I am drinking ice water. I don't know if you can see that. I love ice water. I think it is the most fantastic drink in the world. I cannot stand lukewarm water, like room temperature water. I won't drink it. I can't stand it. For me, it has to be super, super, super cold and or over ice. And when it is, to me, it just completely changes the taste. I love nothing more. I would rather drink ice water than, pretty much anything else. So, yeah. Let me know down in the comments, what your favorite drink is and why. For me, it is partially a sensory thing, but yeah, I love cold drinks. So, now, let's get into this. So, this video is going to be about why I don't like contemporary books. That's right. I have had a very not great relationship with contemporary books. I really don't like them. And I think my biggest gripe with contemporary books is I feel, now this is just me personally, I feel that they've kind of gone beyond their purpose, if that makes sense. Like, I personally feel like my biggest gripe with contemporary books really is that a lot of them, okay, at least the ones that I have read, are very focused on sort of social and political issues and representation. And you can tell, like when you read the book, you can tell that this is the focus, that the author is, intending to make a point about a specific issue that is occurring, whether it be past or present. And my sort of biggest gripe with contemporary books is that it seems like a lot of them anyway are so focused on sort of these, social and political issues that they seem to have lost the ability to tell an interesting story. It just I lose interest. I get bored very quickly because the story just isn't interesting to me anymore. And I think it's because there seems to be a focus more on the underlying issue than on, the story itself. One thing that I find about fantasy books, one of the reasons why I love them, I read, for BookTube and that, but I also read as an escape. Um, I read as a form of escapism. It's a stress reliever for me. It's something that I love to do. And you know, I find fantasy books are the best for that. Please ignore the fridge if you can hear it. That's our outside fridge and it tends to make funny sounds, so please ignore that if you can hear it. Um, yeah, so I love fantasy books. I personally feel like it takes a lot more imagination and it takes it's more focused on the story itself. Fantasy books really seem to be more focused on, you know, building and telling a really good story than they are on, dealing with any specific issue, like real world issue. Um, and I think that's my biggest gripe with contemporary books. When I'm reading in my leisure time, I learned a lot about social and political and, historical and issues, world issues, in school, in high school, in public school. I learned a lot about this stuff. And, you know, as important as I feel it is for people, especially young people who are in school, to learn about these things, because don't get me wrong, it is important. I don't feel like it's something that I would personally would want to spend my spare time reading about. It's just not something that appeals to me. I feel like I hear enough about it, on the news between, seeing, news alerts come up. I don't really watch the news, but, just things in passing, seeing things, online, on the news, hearing people talk about these things, combined with what I learned in school, I'm just a bit tired of it, to be honest. I when I read in my leisure time, I want to read about, some fantastical world far away where, other things are happening. It's just more interesting to me. Some fantastical world that doesn't really exist, because then if I get tired of being there, I can always close the book and come back to reality, or I can close the book and open a different book into a different world. And that to me is the magic of reading, is the ability of books, especially fantasy books, but also mystery, but it's mostly fiction books, fantasy and mystery, to transport you into a world that is not your own. I feel like that is the magic of them, and I feel like that magic is one of the most beautiful things about reading. It's one of the reasons why I love to read. And I feel like that has been forgotten almost in favor of, you know, these books that are, you know, almost trying to, it almost feels like the authors are trying to pull these issues and put them out into the mainstream. They're trying to make these issues more mainstream by kind of intruding on that magic, kind of intruding on that space. It feels to me like they are marketed as, oh yeah, this is a great story, and this is a book that you want to spend your leisure time reading. Whereas that's not really what it is. It's not really about the story in my mind. It's more about, trying to, use the story as, a way of trying to make a point about an issue. And you can tell the difference when you read. The second you pick up a contemporary book, as opposed to a fantasy book, you read them, you can feel the difference right away, or at least I can. There's just less magic in the contemporary books. There's just less of it, and it it frustrates me because in my mind that's what reading should be. We want reading to be fun for people. Then, it's a matter of, I feel like reading is something that should be encouraged and made to be fun in its own right. Regardless of what you're reading, I don't feel like we should be, you know, encouraging people to read and have fun reading only to turn around and say, okay, well, now you love reading. Now I want you to, you know, use your love of reading as another way for me to, kind of shove these issues down your throat type thing. That was the biggest problem that I had with it in school as well. Although school, I recognize, is kind of, it's a different place, and it's a place that where you are meant to learn about these things. And so therefore, yeah, sure. I feel like a lot of these books should be like required reading books in school, but I don't think they should be marketed as, you know, a book that you would want to read in your leisure time. I just don't think that that's what they're about. I think they're about trying to, you know, speak about a specific issue that is going on in the world, uh, without, while trying to mask it as a good story. And the reality is, in my mind anyway, doing both is insanely difficult, and I have never seen it done well. I have never seen a contemporary book that speaks about an issue that I feel was also a well-written story. Like, not well-written, but that I feel was also like an interesting and magical and, beautiful story. I've never seen that done. So for me, contemporary books are just not something that I would want to spend my leisure time reading about. I just don't, and I don't feel like they are something that I would recommend to people. I just wouldn't, because in my mind, they're more books that should be like required reading in school, as opposed to books that are marketed to people that, like, yes, you would want to read this in your leisure time. Because to me, leisure time is precious, and using that time to read about things that, are, depressing, and that you already know are going on in the world, but you don't really want to spend your spare time thinking about it, that's just not something that I would, recommend to people. In my mind, leisure time is precious. And so I would highly recommend to people checking out a fantasy, as opposed to a contemporary. I just feel like fantasies are much more magical. I feel like the world building is better. I feel like they tend to have, just a better story in general, because they're not also, trying to make a point. I feel like the focus is more on the story and the characters and the world building, and I just feel like it's just a more enjoyable experience to read a fantasy. So I don't like contemporary books. I will never recommend them. I much prefer fantasy, and I will always recommend fantasy, and mystery as well. I've read a few good mysteries. Mystery books are can be quite good. Some of them aren't that great, but they can be quite good. But yeah, contemporary is one genre that it's just not for me. It's just not my thing, and I wouldn't recommend it as something to read in your leisure time. Now, as far as required reading in school, definitely I would recommend a lot of these books as books to read in school, because a lot of times the required reading in school is so boring that I feel like these books, you know, even telling an okay story, while making a point, I feel like that, I feel like it's kind of like, these books are kind of like, they're like a step up from the required reading in school. I feel like these books should be, like the contemporaries should be the required reading in school, but I feel like fantasy is like up here, like, and mystery. Like, I feel like they should be, the contemporaries shouldn't be marketed as leisure books. I feel like fantasy and mystery definitely should be, and should continue to be. Anyway, my opinions. Feel free to disagree with me if you want. I know a lot of you will. And again, I wasn't trying to offend anyone. I'm just trying to express my thoughts and feelings and opinions about these books. So, with that said, the book that I am reading right now, the fantasy book that I'm reading right now, is The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and I am loving it. I think it is fantastic, and I am definitely going to do a full review of it when I'm finished. I'm just taking a break from the Ember in the Ashes series. I did finish A Torch Against the Night, so I'm working on a full review for that. And I'm reading The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I also have a couple other books that I am going to be reading and doing reviews for. So, okay. I'm guessing, I don't know if any of you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed my little sort of controversial talk. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I do lots of bookish and autism related videos on this channel, so if that sounds like fun to you, if that sounds like something you would enjoy, please, thumbs up and subscribe, and comment below. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate every single comment that I get. So yeah. Alright guys, I will see you all next time. Okay, bye!